Hello, folks. It is February 18th, and we're going to talk about a few things that are in the news lately. One is going to be the Russia-Ukraine war, and we're also going to touch on the Tucker Carlson interview and on the Navalny death in Russian prison. He is the chief Russian opposition leader, and he died in a Russian prison. So that's going to be first topic. Second topic is going to be the Israel-Gaza war, and specifically Israel's preparation to invade Rafah. Is it Rafah or Rafiah? I'm not sure. But Rafah is the southernmost region in Gaza, and that's where most of the population is. But more importantly, that's where all the remaining militants, Hamas militants, are holding out. So that's something, so a conquest of Rafah is necessary in order for Israel to win this war. So we're going to talk about that. And the third topic is going to be about how they're prosecuting and persecuting Trump and the upcoming election the end of this year between most likely Trump and Biden. Okay, so let's talk about these topics. Number one, let's talk about the Russia-Ukraine war. Am I for it? Am I against it? Am I neutral? So I've probably done videos on this before, but let me just clarify it again. I am very much opposed of the U.S. involvement in this. Now, let me back up a step or two here. Okay, I am an isolationist. I believe that what made this country great in the 19th century is that we were completely not involved, like for a full century or more. Our policy was, we're not getting involved. We're going to do trade with both France and Britain and whatever. Whoever wants to be good to us, great, but we're not going to discriminate. Anyone who wants to trade with us, we're going to trade with them. And remember the Monroe Doctrine, which is, we're not going to interfere and meddle in your affairs. You don't meddle in our affairs, in any of the American affairs. And so I'm a very strong proponent of this belief. I really, really believe in it. I believe in it both as a matter of moral rectitude. Okay, we should not be telling other people how to conduct their own business, and as a practical guide to success and to prosperity. You know, like, why take sides when there's no point to it? You're not going to benefit from it. There's no reason to take sides. Okay, and so this guides my position on the Russia-Ukraine war. And so the way I see it is, there is just no imperative for America to get involved here. Now, in a nutshell, 30 years ago, or more properly 40 years ago, there was the Soviet Union, and there was a global battle between good and evil, quote unquote. Sorry, I'm holding the camera in one hand. I wanted to put it in quotes, but I can't put air quotes here, holding the camera on one side. So there was an existential question here of whether the world will be communist or capitalist. So back then, the communist ideal was still very much alive and kicking. It had currency with a very large proportion of the population. You know, people in developed countries, I mean, Russia was very much technologically developed, and people believed in it. And of course, America did not. And so this was a very serious battle. And I think that the US was justified, broadly speaking, I don't want to go into details, of trying to prevent third world countries from falling into Russia's sphere of influence. I think it made a lot of sense. I'm not going to say every single war was justified. I'm against the Vietnam War. I think that was a mistake. But again, broadly speaking, the opposition to communism, and remember, communism is not just an economic system, it's also totalitarianism, and it's living a falsehood, as we well know. But again, I don't want to go into this because it's not germane to our current conversation. The point being here merely is that the Cold War is over, okay? So the Soviet Union collapsed. They readily admitted defeat. This is not happening. It's not good. Our people are not liking this. It's not working out. They disbanded both the economic system of communism and its grip on all these different Soviets/republics that it used to control. And so, in fact, Ukraine was one of those. It used to be under the Russian sphere of influence before the collapse of the Soviet Union. It was literally a Soviet, right? And and yeah, it got its independence with the collapse of the Soviet Union, and so for the first 2 decades after the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991, it remained under the Russian sphere of influence. So oligarchs, as they call them, continued to rule and control the economy there, and and that's what it was. That was the status quo. Now, again, the people there, it's not just that it was economically integrated with Russia, but the people there are very much similar to the Russian culture. They speak a similar language. They practice a similar religion, not a similar, but the same religion, which is Russian Orthodoxy. So the economy is integrated. The people, same stock, same ancestry, same race. Russia used to have its capital in Kiev, which is Ukraine, and so on and so forth. And Putin pointed out something interesting in the interview with Tucker Carlson, which is that Ukraine literally meant the border patrol. I don't know if that's true, but that's what he said. So if you want to dispute it, then just let me know if that's not true. But Putin said that that's what it meant. So the whole concept of distinctness among Ukrainians, quote unquote, is that they were literally the people on the border of Russia with the other peoples on the west of Russia, right? So in other words, the Russians that interacted with the Poles and the Lithuanians, etc., those were the Ukrainians, right? So they were still Russians, but they were the Ukrainian Russians, right? The ones that were on the border. So that's what Putin said in the interview. But anyway, the point being here is that that after the collapse of the Soviet Union, there's just no reason for the U.S. to get involved there. There's no existential question here of communism versus capitalism. There's no threat to our way of life. It's, again, the Monroe Doctrine says we don't get involved in European affairs. So this is a European question. So if Germany sees that as a threat, that's on Germany, not on us. The NATO alliance should have been disbanded, period. There was no purpose, there's literally no purpose for NATO. This is completely disgraceful if it's true, and it probably is, what has been revealed in the Tucker Carlson interview, that Putin proposed that he should join NATO, and Clinton said, okay, I'll look into it, and then the bureaucracy came back later, no, ain't happening. You're not joining NATO. What Putin should have said is, hey, we are no longer a threat. Why not disband NATO? I think that would have been a more sensible question. Not just join NATO, but disband NATO. I mean, obviously, if Russia joined NATO, there was no... Its entire raison d'etre is null and void. What's the whole purpose of its existence? The whole purpose of NATO was as a bulwark against communist Russia, and later, after the collapse of the Soviet Union, against Russia, right? But if Russia is going to join NATO, there's no reason for the organization to exist. Alliance against whom? Against the Arab countries? I mean, that's a possibility, I suppose, but that's not what the original purpose of the organization was. So, yeah. So to the extent that that's true, and it's probably true, that's a huge mistake. That's a huge mistake that America made. America should not have continued this adversarial approach towards Russia after the collapse of the Soviet Union and after the demise of communism. So, to reiterate, I'm advocating for America's neutrality on the Russia-Ukraine war. Now, if I have to express an opinion, okay, a sentiment as to whom I want to win, yes, I do want Ukraine to be under a Western sphere of influence. I want them to be more allied with Germany and France and other NATO countries. I don't want the NATO alliance, but I'm telling you countries that are currently in the NATO alliance, namely Western countries, right? I want them to be more affiliated with Western liberal democracies rather than with Putin's totalitarian oligarchy. I don't know exactly how you define the economy right now, but it's probably, an oligarchy is probably the best term, right? It's not communism, and sort of like an oligarchic capitalism, so to speak. But yeah, I have no sympathy for the Russian way of governance, but at the same time, it's their right. And I have no reason to believe that the majority of the Russians don't support that and don't want that. So they have the right to do whatever they want. And if the majority of the Ukrainians want that, then they should be allied with Russia. And if they don't want it, let them do something else. But whatever, that's for them to figure out. Maybe France and Germany and Britain and whoever else is in Europe, I don't know, Poland, Austria, whatever else, they can get involved in this. But America should not have a role in this. Okay, so that's it. So that's my 2 cents on that. Now, about Navalny, about the death of Navalny. Okay, so let's be honest here. There's no question that these opposition leaders, there's no question that Putin is killing them. Okay, let's be honest. All right, it's not rocket science. Okay, yes, the smoking gun is never there, but that's by design. Okay, that's how it's designed. It's designed that these people die in a manner that you cannot directly link it with Putin himself. Okay, so we understand that. Every reasonable person understands that. But at the same time, that doesn't make Putin evil. I don't consider him evil for that any more than Biden is evil or that Bush is evil. I mean, Bush started the Iraq war, which I absolutely abhor. I think that was the biggest mistake in U.S. foreign policy, by far, easiest, biggest mistake in the last, 30 years, maybe longer. And I absolutely detest him for it. I was against that war from the beginning until today. And I don't want to get sidetracked, okay? But suffice it to say that a lot of people died. Millions of people died. American soldiers died. The U.S. economy, U.S. money, billions upon billions, hundreds of billions of dollars were spent on this war effort. And it was all for naught. We didn't accomplish anything. We don't even have an allied country right now in Iraq. They're allied with Iran right now. So, and we killed so many people. So what did we do? What did we accomplish? So yeah, it's ridiculous. But anyway, what I'm trying to point out here is that every leader makes mistakes. Every leader is a killer, including Bush, including Biden, whatever he does, whatever war, any war and any action that he authorizes, hey, he's killing people. So when American Western media say, oh, Putin is a killer, because he kills opposition leaders, well, we also kill people. Okay? And it is very ironic that the biggest vocal critics of Putin are also the people who do exactly what Putin is doing to his opposition leaders, namely imprisoning or attempting to imprison their opponents. Okay, what are they doing to Trump right now? It's just so patently obvious. What he did, everyone knows this. If you're intelligent, if you have the least bit of intelligence and insight into this, Trump would not have been prosecuted at any of these things if not for the political hatred that his enemies harbor against him. Okay, look at I don't even go into details. It's just too involved here, and that's not the point that I'm trying to make here. But suffice it to say, for this conversation, that all of these things, all of these prosecutions against Trump are politically motivated. $350 million against... Gosh, I don't even want to talk about it. It's so crazy. Anyway, everyone understands this, that this is all politically motivated. And so they're trying to silence him through imprisonment. That's what they're doing. Okay, thank goodness. They don't want to kill him. As of yet. Okay, they didn't charge him with a capital crime yet. It could happen. It could happen. Could happen that they would charge him with such a crime. I don't think they're going to actually execute him, but they're prosecuting and persecuting him. That's what they're doing. So that's not very far removed from what Putin is doing. So I don't feel like Putin is exceptionally evil because of what he's doing. That's how they run their country, and they have the right to determine, who should live and who should die within their own people. They're not killing Americans there. They're killing their own people. Okay, so Navalny doesn't, I know it's cruel to say this, but that's just the fact. We should not be getting involved in what other countries are doing. He is a Russian citizen. Technically speaking, he's not an American citizen. He's a Russian citizen. And if the Russians determine that through whatever process and whatever governance is involved in Russia, if they determine that they don't want him alive, then that's on them. That's not on us. Okay? So that settles topic number one. Topic number two is going to be the Israel-Gaza war. Okay, so I already spent 50 minutes on this, so I'm going to have to try to speed this up. Okay, so here's the thing. Right now, Israel is preparing to launch a campaign on defeating the militants in Rafah. So that's the last stronghold of Hamas militants. Now, what happened is that as Israel was conquering more territory, what happened is that these militants would just essentially evacuate, and they would migrate to other areas and set up shop there. So they still have tunnels, they still have infrastructure, they're still controlling land. And the problem is that so long as they're controlling anything within Gaza, when Israel leaves, they're just going to pop up like mushroom after a rain, right? They're still there. They still have their infrastructure. The leadership is still there. The battalions are still there. And it's very easy for them to repopulate. And so this whole war effort that Israel launched in the aftermath of October 7 will have been for naught if they don't finish the job with Rafah. So the Rafah invasion must take place. Israel understands that. The leadership there understands that. And the truth is that all the other countries understand it too. The Arab countries understand it, the America understands it, and so on and so forth. They don't admit it in public, but again, I don't want to go into that. It's going to complicate this conversation too much. The question of the duplicity of these leaders, of the Arab leaders and Biden and all these other people. Where in the public they say, oh, Israel cannot do blah, blah, blah. But in private, they understand that Israel not only may do it, but they should do it. so anyway, so that's for a whole other conversation. Point is that Israel understands that it has to do it, and it will do it. Now, if Hamas is smart, then Hamas would agree to an extended ceasefire in exchange for the release of all of the hostages. Israel will almost certainly agree to such a deal. In other words, we will stop all hostilities. We will cease all hostilities for, let's say, 4 to 6 months in exchange for the release of all the hostages. Now, will Israel release some political prisoners in return? Probably. Maybe not exactly the identities of what the Hamas wants, but I think Israel is willing to release at least some Palestinian prisoners in return. And Israel is also willing to suspend the hostilities for some time. Now, not completely pull out. They're not willing to do that. I know that. But they're willing to do it for 4 to 6 months. Now, why am I saying that Hamas would be smart to agree to such a deal? Because even though the intention isn't explicitly that Israel will completely withdraw and the war will come to an end, even though that's not in the intention, there's a very good chance that will happen. If they can agree, if Hamas can hammer out a deal where Israel says, okay, we're not going to do any campaigns for the next 5 months, then it's going to be a little bit difficult for Israel to relaunch the war after 4 months. Remember, Rafah is already a very difficult campaign because the civilians have nowhere to go. Egypt is not letting them in, and it's, until now, Israel could just simply evacuate the civilians push them farther and farther south. But where are they going to go now? And so, to be honest, it's very possible that Israel is deep down saying to itself, if we can somehow finish this, release all the hostages and agree to some type of truce, like maybe they'll agree not to launch rockets or whatever for the next, who knows how long. Maybe they'll agree for some leaders as a symbol for them to be exiled from Gaza. I don't know what exactly the terms are, but if Hamas survives this, then that's a victory for them. And that's a loss for Israel. So, as a smart strategy, they should do whatever they can to survive this. And in order to survive this, they must fend off the imminent invasion of Rafah. So they should agree to whatever deal they can to fend off this coming invasion. If they can do that, then they have a very good chance of the war not achieving its true aim, which is the complete annihilation of Hamas. Now, it will have achieved the aim of the return of the hostages, but not the annihilation of Hamas. And that would be a Hamas victory. So I'm hoping that it doesn't happen, because I don't think this would be a loss for Israel. It would be a mistake, in my opinion. I think that Israel should not agree to any deal unless and until Hamas is completely defeated. And the hostages should not play a central role in their objective. And no, I do not agree that these are mutually complementary, that they can go hand in hand. I think that there's significant incompatibility with these two goals, namely the release of the hostages and the defeat of Hamas. They are inversely correlated, okay? When one succeeds, the other one fails. So I think Israel needs to prioritize. It's a lie when Biden says, oh, we're not, that's, both of those are our goals, and they go together, right? It's not true. But okay, whatever. So, to summarize my position on the Israel-Gaza war, I think the right thing for Israel to do is to proceed with the Rafah thing. The right thing for Hamas would have been to agree to some type of deal, in which Israel does not do that right now. But the way I see it is that Hamas will be defeated. Hamas will be defeated. The ideology will not be defeated. But that particular organization in time and space will be defeated. Okay, so in the aftermath of this war, if I have to guess, in a year or two from now, there will be no Hamas ruling Gaza. Okay, so that's my prediction. And so the war aims will largely have been achieved. Now it's still extremely challenging as to what Israel is going to do there, like what is going to be the government after the war. And I have some ideas on that. I don't want to go into them in this video because we're already 22 minutes into this, so we'll leave it for a different time. But the point being right now is that Israel will finish its mission. That's my prediction. And Hamas will be defeated, and they will have some type of Israel-friendly government there after the war. Okay? So that's it for that. Now, topic number 3 is the question of the Biden versus Trump. Okay, so I think Biden is on the ropes, in my opinion. I would not have said this a month or two ago, but right now my assessment is that he's on the ropes. Why? So first of all, if I go to Predict It, which is where people predict with money, right? They bet, they wager on the outcome of elections. So if you go to Predict It, you will see that Biden is losing. Okay, so Trump is leading Biden by 3 or 4 points. And that has not been the case in the past. So that's a recent shift. So 2 or 3 months ago, Biden was the one leading. Okay, so Biden was a favorite to win the election. And now it is Trump. I think I checked this morning and he was up by like 2 points. But a few days ago or last week this time, he might have been up by 4 points. Okay, and so why is this? So there's 2 reasons, in my opinion, as to why Trump has taken the lead. One is that one is the immigration problem. So Biden messed up on immigration. So they talk the talk, all right. You know, the progressives, the Democrats, we're going to let people in and we're going to be compassionate. These people are escaping persecution and we need to embrace them and we need to be compassionate, etc. They have rights. We need to investigate. We need to let them in. We cannot separate families. You know, all those talking points. They're very nice on paper, but when you start processing all of this stuff in reality, it just doesn't work. And look at Eric Adams in New York City, how he, a year ago this time, oh, sanctuary city, come. And now he's saying, oh, no, please, we can't handle it, no more. Our city is crumbling. We can't handle this. Too much. And so you see how these people, they don't have a reconciliation between their theory and practice, right? On theory, on paper, they're very compassionate, but when it comes to the reality of how much it costs, how much this compassion costs, the money isn't there for it, and it just doesn't work. So, so on immigration, he messed up. Now, Biden is not really the one in charge. Okay, I don't think he's really that capable at this advanced age to really figure out the complexity of things, etc. But his administration messed up, right? His administration did not anticipate the great cost of this illegal immigration, of cost in terms of money and in terms of politics, because people don't want it. Obviously, the right doesn't want it, the conservatives don't want it, but even people in the middle or even people on the left, they don't really want it. So he messed up on that. And so now he has turned people away from the party. And so there's going to be a good amount of independents who don't want to vote for him because of this. So that's number one. Number two, the second reason is on the other end of the spectrum. So the second reason is the wokesters. Okay, so the wokesters, they're angry at him because of his support for Israel in the Israel-Gaza war. So they're angry at him. They're really angry. So Biden couldn't help himself because he's an old school Democrat. And his instinct is to side with Israel. So he's not a wokester, right? So he doesn't understand this concept of oppressor versus oppressed and all that bullshit that's coming, the school of thought of this, of the youngest generation. He doesn't subscribe to that. And so to him, it was natural, hey, we're supporting Israel. And so he's turning away people because of that. And so I think it's inevitable that there's going to be a lot of those people who are either not going to vote or they're going to vote for a third party. They're going to vote for Cenk Uygur or something else, some other write-in cockamamie candidate. Okay, these people are crazy enough. They don't understand things, this younger generation. They don't really understand how politics works. They don't understand anything. They're living in fairyland. And so they don't understand that they're going to get Trump elected if they do this. And like I said, it's inevitable that he's going to lose votes among this population because of this. But that's my assessment, at least. So he's going to lose votes among the wokesters because of the Israel-Hamas war. He's going to lose votes among general independents because of immigration, possibly over inflation, even though that has obviously been corrected by now. But people remember it. Okay, it happened under Biden. It didn't happen under Trump. I think Trump is also complicit in it because he's the one who started all this giveaway and all this printing money due to COVID, which is, in my opinion, was a big, big mistake and it should never have been done. And it was completely unnecessary. But Trump started it. Biden ratcheted it up. And so inflation may be a factor as well, but mostly it's because of immigration. Because immigration is palpable and it's still ongoing. And it will still be ongoing for the foreseeable future. And so that's something real. So people will reject him because of that. So bottom line is, I think that Trump is a favorite to win. Of course, the last thing to point out is that all of this persecution of him only serves to rally his base towards him. Like me personally, I think it was a big mistake for conservatives not to choose DeSantis over him. I think DeSantis would have been a much better candidate, and I think he would have handily defeated Biden. But I think Trump will still defeat Biden because of all of these reasons that I just mentioned. And so yeah. So that's my take on all these three things. So to summarize, on the Russia-Ukraine war, I am neutral. On Israel-Hamas war, I am pro-Israel. I want Israel to win. I want Hamas defeated, and I think it will happen. Although not the ideology, that will not be defeated, and that's sadly so. And lastly, on the third topic, I think Trump will win the re-election. And yeah, so I think mostly we are on good grounds here. The good guys are winning and the bad guys are losing. Okay, so thank you for watching and enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Bye-bye.